Welcome back to Lariat TV News. I'm Nate Smith. This is our last newscast of the semester, and we're bringing you our best of show.
And I'm George Schroeder. Before we get into that, here's the news you need before the break. Lock your doors. Waco police are looking for two 19-year-olds, Paul Williams, a person of interest, and this man, suspect Patrick Lucas, in connection with a ring of vehicle and firearm thefts. Some of them are near Baylor. 5 others have been arrested for up to 50 of those thefts in cars in the past 6 months. The incidents ranged from Falls County to Robinson to neighborhoods near Baylor, and police say in every case, the vehicle was left unlocked with no trace of forced entry. The men are targeting unlocked cars in small, packed parking lots like apartments and hotels. Many of those areas are near campus. Waco PD urges you to never leave your vehicle unlocked, take your valuables with you, and don't leave guns unattended in your vehicle. This past month, a distemper outbreak swept through the Humane Society of Central Texas, claiming the lives of a number of potential pets through euthanization. Jessica Rajkumar has the details.
Earlier this month, the Humane Society temporarily closed its doors to quarantine animals due to a distemper outbreak that has plagued Texas. Volunteer and former matchmaker Cameron Brooks shared the heartbreaking story of some of the animals who had to be euthanized.
So that's what was frustrating, is Blue wasn't necessarily a case where he could not survive in a home. And I don't feel like he was given the chance to survive in a home with somebody who was willing to work with him and everything, because he was a big dog.
Cameron shares the story of Blue, a pit bull who unfortunately was euthanized in an attempt to contain the distemper.
Distemper is an extremely contagious virus, generally through aerosolized droplets and breathing, so it's very easy to transmit through a situation like this.
While they were closed, the city and staff at the Humane Society worked tirelessly to contain the distemper. However, the process was not for the lighthearted.
Low dogs were quarantined because if they did have the virus, it wasn't a vaccine, they were on the tail end usually. So most of them have improved greatly since their test came back, and they're in quarantine right now doing well. We had a couple indeterminates, very, very few, I think maybe 1 or 2, that showed up as indeterminate but had severe symptoms and were deteriorating in their health despite treatment and not responding well. And those we made the decision to be humane. Most of our indeterminates are actually improving in isolation now, and we're going to start retesting here next week to see if we're getting through and clearing this virus.
The city and the vet techs that work there are trying their best. They are trying to work with what they're given, and just basically at the end of the day, they need to be given more.
The Humane Society encourages all pet owners to vaccinate their dogs and to lend a hand in fostering one if you are responsibly capable. For Lariat TV News, I'm Jessica Rajkumar.
It's officially the holiday season, but it's not the most wonderful time of the year for everyone. Holidays can trigger addiction, and individuals often revert to drugs and alcohol to cope when back in their hometown. According to the CDC, family dysfunction, uncomfortable situations, grief, or finances can all lead to a spike in addiction. Statistically, the most dangerous times of the year for drug and alcohol-related deaths are December and January.
It's also a time when our society says you're supposed to celebrate. And specifically in Western culture, celebration is often associated with alcohol and drug use. So it's definitely a triggering time.
Christmas will still bring holiday cheer, however, as one volunteer organization is making it easier for lower-income families to put toys under the tree. Every parent deserves to shop with dignity. According to Mission Waco, the volunteer-run Christmas toy store gives the opportunity to purchase brand new toys and gifts at an 80% discount off the retail price. The toy drive serves over 500 parents and 2,000 children in Waco.
It's just seeing the parents, how appreciative they are. And I love the actual toy store, to see how they appreciate everything, how much it means to them, letting people know that they matter.
Baylor is looking for a way to increase engagement with alumni, and one PBS star was the perfect fit to scout out his fellow former Baylor Bears. Caitlin Sides has the story.
Chet Garner, now known as the Day Tripper, graduated from Baylor Law School and set out to make a career for himself in the corporate world. But he would never have predicted a different career would lead him back to Baylor 13 years later.
Man, it just has this bad reputation that is totally undeserved. So I thought, I'm going to make a television show and use Waco sort of as the poster, the test case for it.
After graduating from Baylor Law, he decided he wanted to pursue something more.
I love traveling Texas. but there's not really any shows or content out there about the stuff that I want to do.
For the last 13 years, The Day Tripper has been airing weekly on PBS stations around Texas. Now, after he started his new career, he is back at Baylor starring in a commercial for alumni engagement known as Bears in the Wild.
Of course, this Bears in the Wild campaign needed a goofy spokesperson with no pride to fall out of a canoe and, track down imaginary bears all over the place.
Garner is planning to continue his work with Baylor and create more commercials for alumni engagement in 2023. And of course, continue his show, The Day Tripper.
Baylor alumni more engaged with each other because, we don't tend to be as loud and vocal as some of the other schools.
For Lariat TV News, I'm Caitlin Sides.
That's a wrap on our news coverage this week.
And before we get into Best of Show, let's take a look at a pair of huge matchups in Baylor athletics. Men's basketball lost to Marquette earlier this week in their first true road game of the year, and they're now looking for a win over the battle-tested Gonzaga Bulldogs. Tuesday, the team traveled to Milwaukee to play their leg in the Big East Big 12 battle, but they were both outmatched early, with Marquette sprinting out of the gate with a 21-2 run. It was a tough loss for the team, but the Bears can still salvage the week with a win on Friday in a rematch of 2021's national championship game against Gonzaga. Coach Scott Drew mentioned the familiar foe earlier this week and what can come from the game.
They lose at Texas and they bounce back and beat Kentucky by 20. So why you love playing a team like that is you're going to get better. They're not going to beat themselves. And it's going to be a game where if you win, you've done a lot of things really well.
Baylor Volleyball is hosting rounds 1 and 2 of the NCAA tournament this weekend and grabbed a win in their first match against Stephen F. Austin on Thursday night. The Bears went on a 5-0 run out of the gate and never looked back as they maintained control for all 3 sets. Sophomore Elise McGee tallied 13 kills and freshman Allie Check posted 7 blocks in the sweep. Baylor now has a quick turnaround to Friday night when they'll take on Rice in round 2 of the tournament. First serve is set for 7 p.m. at the Farrell Center.
Thanks, Joe. That closes out sports this week.
And up next, we're bringing you the best LTVN had to offer this semester. Keep it here.
Let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates and strangers who become family. Let there be marching and cheering. Let there be challenging courses and time to share. Scholarship and championships. Let there be groundbreaking and soul-searching. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light.
There's always some news that no one wants to hear. This semester, I covered a school shooting scare at Waco High School as it was unfolding. The range of emotions I saw is something that I'll never forget.
I just want to know my kid's okay,
Last Tuesday, families rushed to their students at Waco High School after Waco PD responded to one phone call saying there was an active shooter inside with the students.
They went through each individual school or classroom and hallway to make sure that there was no threat. Thankfully, there wasn't, and so now we're just working to get kids back to their parents.
Waco PD went room by room and verified that there was no threat, no shooter, and no gun. They also cleared the building along with all of its students and its teachers.
We were all really in shock, and we could see all the cop cars lined up, and I was like, whoa.
Emotions were high at Waco High School today, but everyone is safe and are making their way home just a couple hours after the initial report had been made.
No weapon was located, no suspects were located, so thankfully that was the outcome today.
3 of the current and former Baylor students who are now teachers at Waco High School were present with their students during this lockdown.
I knew it was a risk of being a teacher, but I did not feel like I was going to have to experience that so soon in my teaching career. As a student teacher, that's not really something that you plan on happening while you are in the classroom for the first time.
The school district also told us that Houston received a threat like this today, and there were many others. Both the district and Waco PD plan to investigate to see if this was a coordinated hoax. By Waco High School, for Lariat TV News, I'm Danica Young.
Being born in 2002, I didn't experience the tragedy of 9/11, But after speaking with veterans on the 21st memorial of that day, I feel more connected through their stories.
The tragedy of 9/11 occurred 21 years ago, and some veterans in the Waco area are honoring those who served by walking the stairs of Jacob's Ladder. 110 flights of stairs, over 2,000 steps. That's what our first responders were tasked to climb on that unimaginable day. The Heart of Texas Detachment 975 Marine Corps League held its 4th annual Waco Memorial 9/11 stair climb at Jacob's Ladder in Cameron Park, honoring those whose lives were lost during the attacks.
We just want to pay honor and homage to them because, in all honesty, those were true heroes. Those were people who gave up their lives to try to help save other people's lives, and it's not very often that we get to see what a true hero looks like.
Jacob's Ladder contains 88 steps, while the World Trade Center contained around 2,000 steps. The goal of the climb was to reach 24 relays, but the event achieved far more. The league wants us to never forget, while also spreading awareness on the impact of the attacks present day.
The United States used to recognize Pearl Harbor Day, the day that Pearl Harbor was bombed. He said it was an event that people used to not just celebrate, but just to remember. It slowly started to fall off, and then, I myself never recognized or celebrated Pearl Harbor Day, and I said, shoot, man, this is something that happened in my lifetime, and I don't want anybody to forget. I'll keep it going for as long as I can.
Here we are, 20th anniversary. Where Robinson Tower is, all that area, they're going to withdraw basketball. And what did we accomplish? Mm-hmm. So my question to you and to everybody else is the war really over? Mm-hmm. I don't think it is, because we still have 22 vets a day killing themselves. We still, if not more, one of my good friends I wear on my wrist, he was a McLennan County Sheriff's officer here. He was also an Afghan war vet as well, and he took his life a couple years ago. So honestly, we need to be commemorating this event, and for Patriots Day, as they're going to relabel it. But what are we going to do about it?
If you or someone you know are in need of help due to suicidal thoughts, please call or text the National Suicide Hotline at 988. For Lariat TV News, I'm Katie Kempf.
To kick off Baylor's homecoming celebration, I caught up with students and some special faculty. Spirits were high and stomachs were full on the Livingstone's front lawn in my favorite story of this semester.
This past Tuesday, Baylor kicked off its homecoming week with the annual Dinner with the Livingstones. Students lined up for vendors and free food to celebrate the start of everyone's favorite football game. Despite the chilling weather, students were eager to socialize with their friends and get a chance to have a conversation with Baylor's president and first gent.
I just decided to come because free food in this busy, stressful time of homecoming season is so needed and so welcomed.
Yes, and we appreciate Brad and Linda so much, and so I just want to come meet them and hang out with them at their beautiful house.
This year's homecoming game against Kansas University has students and staff excited for the spirit-filled season, including the official hosts of Tuesday night's dinner.
We love inviting the students to our home to enjoy the food trucks and just wonderful fellowship on our lawn.
While most students are familiar with Baylor's annual traditions, the newest freshman class get to experience the feeling of homecoming energy, with many of them expressing the excitement that comes with a first college homecoming event.
I'm excited just because it's obviously our first year of doing this, and we have 3 more years of this. But I'm excited for the game because I know it's going to be intense, so hopefully we can come out with a win.
The annual Dinner with the Livingstones brings the campus together to bond and celebrate our school in a way that many will cherish. It also ignites the homecoming spirit within students that can pump them up for the game ahead.
Homecoming versus KU, we are going to run them into the ground, and it is going to be epic.
What he said.
With Lariat TV News, this is Jessica Rajkumar.
During homecoming weekend, I got the chance to work with one fraternity that made their big return to pigskin. It was a rewarding experience getting to watch this act unfold from behind the scenes. Kappa Omega Tau took home first place in the 2022 All-University Sing competition. But this time last year, the fraternity was watching from the audience for the first time in 13 years.
We were just in the audience watching them do it, which was a bitter taste for sure as a club, especially a club that prides itself on excellence and wanting to do well.
KOT has participated in Pigskin 46 times and did not make Pigskin in 2007 and 2020. This past Sing competition was the group's comeback year, and they scored first place. The current Sing chairs are now excited for their new members to get the chance to participate in the act.
Just the most adrenaline rush I've ever had. So seeing them experience it is going to be really fun for me, fun for everybody that has already done it, to see the younger guys do it for the first time.
The 6-minute act titled It's a Gnome's World featured a wide variety of songs ranging from Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang to This Is How We Roll by the Jonas Brothers. The group continues to build on their tradition, especially since most of them have relatives who were KOTs themselves.
I think the tradition just comes because there's so much bonding, because we have everybody in the club in one place for 5 nights a week, 2 hours a day. So that's kind of what drives us all with it.
Kappa Omega Tau performed their acts this past homecoming weekend and plans to continue this new winning streak this February at Sing. For Lariat TV News, I'm Caitlin Sides.
There are countless volunteer opportunities in a semester at Baylor, one of the most memorable being Project 5810, a food drive that fed over 100,000 people right from the business school.
I'm currently in the room where Project 5810 will take place in a few short minutes, and as you can tell, the energy is high. They plan for dozens of students to come and pack food for Waco and McLennan County.
The way the event works is groups of 6 to 7 people are assigned at a table where they are given jobs. They can scoop the food, funnel it into a bag, weigh the bag, and seal the food packages. And once they finish that, it is ready to be boxed and distributed to those in need. Who is it being distributed to? I asked volunteers that very question.
McLennan County has a poverty rate before the pandemic of 26%, and that's only gone up during the pandemic. So we're pushing somewhere around 30% of the poverty rate, which means we have a lot of families in need in this area, and that's where all of these meals are going to go to help support our neighbors in need right here.
It is an event where we bring community members, various parts of campus together to try and address food insecurity in partnership with Caritas.
Yeah, tonight we've got 3 shifts of people. They'll be coming in, about 150 people at each shift. So you've got some sports groups coming, some civic groups, some fraternities, sororities, faculty groups, student groups, just a collection of friends and neighbors tonight.
Now, as you can tell, all the volunteers have similar t-shirts on. Those t-shirts were donated to them and have the verse Isaiah 58:10 on the back, which the event was named after. If there's one thing I learned from Project 5810, is that these volunteers love to have fun. For Lariat TV News, I'm Brady Small.
Baylor has the possibility of playing 4 new teams next year, and getting to talk to a few students from some of those schools made this story my favorite of the semester. The college football season is in full swing, but beyond the field, there is an ongoing conference realignment that is bringing other outcomes besides unfamiliar matchups. In the 2021 season, Texas and Oklahoma both declared their departure from the Big 12 to the Southeastern Conference in 2025. Soon thereafter, the Big 12 responded by acquiring Houston, UCF, Cincinnati, and BYU in 2023. Some students from the incoming schools were ecstatic that their team would finally be in a well-known conference.
I think it's real cool, actually. We've been in football. I know we've been the last few years getting a lot of attention, and I think being in a bigger conference is good for them.
The problem that has presented itself to the Big 12 and other Power 5 conferences is that the geographical convenience that was present about a decade ago is no longer there. The University of Cincinnati is one of the more remote schools compared to the cluster of where the rest of the Big 12 is, and it might seem like their longest possible in-conference trip is to Baylor, but in fact it goes even further than the mileage to Waco. If Cincinnati fans were to travel to a potential in-conference game against a team like BYU, it's not as easy as going up I-35 a few hours before the game. If they were to travel from Cincinnati to Provo, Utah via the quickest viable option, they would have to drive to the Cincinnati airport, fly to Denver for a connecting flight, and then fly to Utah just to make it to Salt Lake City. And then take an Uber from Salt Lake City to Provo that would be over $60, putting the total cost to around $400. And that's just a one-way trip. That doesn't even include lodging, amenities, or tickets for the game itself that can vary depending on the importance of how impactful the game can be. Even though the price range can break the bank for some, Godfrey still thinks that paying a large price will be worth it for some devoted fans.
Yeah, that might be an issue, but there's always going to be those diehard fans that are going to travel no matter what. So
one of the incoming schools that actually benefited travel-wise was the University of Houston because they will be joining a conference with at least 3 other Texas schools already there.
It'll actually give a lot of the fan base a lot more reason to go travel. Like you said, we have a couple teams in the surrounding area in Texas, like at max 4 or 5 hours away or something like that. So it gives the fans a lot more flexibility to go support the Cougars, you know what I mean?
Baylor men's basketball hasn't always been as great as it is now. My favorite package reminds the Baylor community how much the team has overcome on and off the court. As a result of the Baylor men's basketball scandal, the prognosis for the program was not good. The coaches took drastic measures, hosting the first ever open tryouts just to have enough to practice 5-on-5. 50 students showed up, including 6'5" pre-med student Robbie McKenzie, who had never even played college basketball. McKenzie was called into an emergency situation for a program that was in critical condition.
And so we went through the tryout, and he called me, I believe it was the next morning. Coach Driscoll called me on my cell phone and said, "Hey, we want to invite you to join the team. Do you want it?" I was like, yeah. He was like, "Well, we practiced today at 1 p.m. So be there." So literally I went from the open tryout the night before to being on the team in practice, just another player on the team, like the next afternoon.
Robbie McKenzie was helping heal the wounds of the program and building the foundation of the new basketball era.
What makes sort of, the team that I was on and my individual story relevant is the fact that they've been successful all these years, culminating in the national championship. And so that's allowed sort of the team that I played on to remain relevant to the program.
After McKenzie graduated from Baylor, he went on to become a general surgeon. McKenzie went from playing man-to-man to healing man-to-man, and his shooting hands became healing hands. Playing basketball and performing surgery may have more in common than one might think.
As a surgeon, you're fixing things. You're finding, you're diagnosing problems, and you're doing something about it. And that appealed to the side of me, that grew up playing sports and, very hands-on and, relying on hand-eye coordination and things like that. It sort of appealed to that same side of me, that it was more physical medicine. It was doing something, fixing something.
For Lariat TV News, I'm Alexandra Lawrence.
It's not every day you get to talk with someone on the other side of the world, but earlier this semester I had the opportunity to interview former Baylor tennis player Matias Soto ahead of his appearance in the World Cup of Tennis.
When Matias Soto first arrived to the States, he was forced to make a quick adaptation most collegiate tennis players don't have to worry about.
To play in a different surface. I'm from South America and we play on clay the whole year. In college tennis, you play on hardcore, so that's one main thing. I was able to learn how to play on hardcore.
After finishing up 4 seasons with the Bears, Soto is set to compete in the World Cup of Tennis for a 3rd time.
When I was a kid, I always looked Davis Cup as the main thing that I wanted to do in the future.
Representing from Chile, Soto accumulated a singles record of 80-35 for Baylor and is now the 532nd ranked singles player in the world.
I was lucky to be part of Baylor and compete in the college tennis and live that experience. It was 4 amazing years, but I was ready to move on and to do, what I wanted to do for such a long time, to be in the professional tour.
For round 1 of the Davis Cup, Matias Soto and Team Chile will travel north to take on a neighboring rival.
Chile and Peru is like Baylor and TCU. There is nothing like that. There is a lot of involved in this match. It's not just tennis.
Another former Bear, Adrian Boitan, is competing in the Davis Cup. The Romanian will serve for his country when they face off against Slovakia.
The bigger the stage, the better his tennis is. He really believes in himself and he backs himself under pressure.
The two athletes suit up for their respective squads starting on September 16th. And Michael Woodson hopes his past players' successes will drive his current players to be better and to attract more talented competitors to Baylor.
Most of the guys that we recruit that come and play here, their goal is professional tennis. We have to be able to point to guys that have had success here and then have gone on and done it at the next level.
For Lariat TV News, I'm Joe Pratt.
Braden Murray couldn't be with us today, but he's been a part of our team all semester. In his first package of the year, he introduced us to a pair of sisters on the Baylor soccer team. It turned out to be his favorite story of the year. And no, you aren't seeing double.
Freshmen from Flower Mound, Texas, Hallie and Hannah Augustin are twins, both of whom are defenders on the Baylor soccer team.
We were both kind of skeptical if we wanted to go to Baylor or if we just wanted to go to the same college or not together. But then I think we both just visited Baylor and we fell in love with it, the atmosphere and everything that just during our visit, it was, I don't know, we just both fell in love.
After earning numerous accolades in their high school career, including the 2021 state championship, the twins have acclimated quickly at the collegiate level and both have played 90 minutes, the full game, in one of their last two matches.
I was going to try my hardest to get some minutes on the field, but it kind of came as a surprise getting that much playing time in a starting spot. But I worked hard to try to get one, and I think coming in, I just knew I needed to really try hard and prove myself in preseason. I was not expecting to play the full game. It's awesome.
The Augustins just didn't come by themselves. They even brought high school and club teammate freshman midfielder Sky Leach.
Having a twin, people tend to think of you as one person, but with this team, they know that you're two separate people and they treat us like two separate people, and they know our different personalities and they try really hard to call us by the correct name, which, we don't take offense to, but I was like, you can just call us twin if it's hard, and they're like, no, you're two separate people. You deserve to be called your own name. So they're just so super kind. Yeah, they're so kind.
The Bears' next home match is September 4th when they'll host the Iowa Hawkeyes. For Lariat TV News, I'm Braden Murray.
And with that, we've come to the end of the newscast and the end of the semester. We hope you have a great holiday break.
We're looking forward to seeing you in the new year, but until then, thanks for watching Lariat TV News. And as always, Sic 'em Bears.